Good morning to everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. It is August the 13th, and y'all, we're getting real close to the start of the Texas football season. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. It's your favorite Armor Richardson here today as we're kind of moseying through, getting through training camp. We've got 2 more scrimmages left, and then, we're right there getting ready to go to Columbus. I just want to kind of update everybody as to where Texas is. We'll start with the offensive side of the ball today. We're going to talk a lot about the offensive side. We'll break down the defensive side tomorrow. But, sometimes you take for granted that people don't watch the show every single day. And so sometimes you're like, oh, man, I might need to repeat myself. So let me go ahead and get through everything. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, because your Texas Longhorns, by the way, your number 1 ranked Texas Longhorns, which we're going to get into that at some point, by the way. We got to talk about these rankings and stuff because it's weird. The whole thing is weird. The whole rankings and things are weird. Not that Texas is number 1, but some other things that are associated with it. I got some stuff for you, not Texas related, but we'll talk about that in a second. As the Texas gets along and we're moseying along in this whole thing, you guys all know the thing is that we've heard a lot about, which is the defense has done a fantastic job during all these scrimmages, right? You've heard that. I've talked about it on the show. Steve Sarkisian has talked about it as well. By the way, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just retweeting this thing. One day I got it. One day, guys, I just got to. Here we go. Thank you. All right. One day I just got to set the tweets. And so we know the defense has kind of been having the upper hand, but we also know that's to be expected when it comes to scrimmages. It's the offense is usually at a slightly a disadvantage when you really think about it, right? It's the defense, they know the play call, right? So if you call a play, everybody kind of knows where it's headed, right? You can only disguise it but so much. So you gotta expect the defense to have the advantage. And No, these are fantasy football belts, but I used to play. No, not professional wrestler or a boxer. Even though I trained as a boxer professionally for a little while. We'll get into that at another point. But nonetheless, squirrel, let me get back to my focus. The defense is always going to have the upper hand. One of the things that Steve Sarkisian has kind of talked about is that most teams that he's been on, the good ones, the defense usually does well in the scrimmages leading up to training camp, right? And that happened last year when we heard about the defense kind of, having its way and doing incredibly well. So it's one of those things. I did a video last week. When you go back on and look at one of the tabs or the live tabs, I talked about the defense being salty. And I've really been on that whole thing about this defense is salty. This defense is really damn good. And you guys should be really excited about where this defense is at, right? So that's kind of been my mantra, right? That's what I've been kind of talking about all throughout training camp. It's ended up being very true as you guys have read the practice reports, you've watched the YouTube videos, or you've heard what Sarkisian has said. He's kind of confirming that, yes, this defense is good. So for me, that's a great thing, right? I'm just recapping a little bit. That's a great thing because, look, when you go into Columbus and you in the season opener, you got to pack your defense, right? Even Sark mentioned that the other day. You're going to have to pack your defense when you go on the road. And when you start thinking about these games that Texas has this season, honestly, your offense can come along, right? Your offense can come along. That's not where it's at. And look, hell, I'm like this. If this defense is doing this well against Arch Manning, who we all believe will be an eventual NFL draft pick, if the defense is doing that well against him, well, who the hell else? Who the hell else is going to be standing in front of them that you would say like, oh man, I don't know. So I think these are good things. I think these are good problems to have, first world problems, right? So what we're going to do as we start bringing down the offense, I'm going to kind of get you guys up to speed because I didn't get a ton of chance. I talked about the scrimmage on Saturday. I did a video with Catch. We did an overreaction Monday. It's a little bit of a topic. And then Tuesday, I really wanted to talk about the freshmen. So I didn't really get a chance to talk about Sarkisian's press conference on Monday. Didn't really get a chance to get into that with y'all. I want to kind of set the foundation with, let's talk about let me show you what Sarkisian said on Monday. Got a video prepared for you. It's only going to be about 3 minutes. And it'll bleed into, so there's going to be two things that I want you guys to kind of focus in on. One is going to talk a little bit about the scrimmage, and you'll kind of get a chance to see what he talked about the offense. And then when I go position by position, I'm going to start with the quarterbacks anyway. And so then you can hear what he said about the quarterbacks. And then again, that'll bleed into the conversation that we're about to have. So we'll go ahead and we'll hear what Sark has to say, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
What did you like about the scrimmage Saturday, and what didn't you like? And can you kind of update us where you are on the field goal kicking?
Yeah, the scrimmage, I thought, the first 3 drives, we were going 1s, 2s, 3s in the scrimmage, which was a little bit different format than we've used in the past. Historically we've gone 1s and 2s, and then when they're done, the 3s go, and then we go 1s and 2s, and then 3s go. We were going 1s, 2s, 3s, and defensively, all 3 groups, 1s, 2s, 3s, came out and had a really good first drive. The second drive, the first offense, the second offense, and the third offense all had really good drives inside the 5, and then they didn't finish those drives. And so that was a great stand by the defense to hold them there. Then we went to the next phase of the scrimmage, which was red zone lockout, and I thought the offense performed really well and won that period. We came back after halftime and did a coming out period. And the second defense had a nice series. The first defense struggled a little, and then the third offense had a 99-yard drive. It's a hell of a drive. And then we did a 2-minute drill, and both the first offense and the second offense drove down and kicked game-winning field goals. So I like the balance. I like the competitiveness of the scrimmage. I like the physicality of the scrimmage. We're playing really physical football on both sides of the ball. As naturally, in a first scrimmage, it's always going to be a little bit sloppy, pre-snap penalties, things like that. We definitely had to clean up from an offensive perspective. I love the way we tackled in the first scrimmage. I think we had, the defensive coaches will tell you we had 15 missed tackles, but there were no really egregious missed tackles. A lot of them were in the line of scrimmage, so I thought we tackled well, which was encouraging. At the end of the day, I thought we punted the ball really well. We got off to a little slow start, kicking game, but I think Mason really stepped up and feel very confident in what he can do. And he made a couple really big kicks for us there at the end. And then obviously we know we have Will, kicking off for us. So I think we're in good shape from a specialty standpoint that way.
Right. And sometimes, I appreciate my producer, Todd does a good job, but the second part here, just setting this up is now, so there's going to be a question that's going to be asked about like the backups behind Arch. And so that's where we're going with the next one. And we only got, this clip here is only going to be about like 50 seconds or so. So
how did your quarterbacks look behind Arch on Saturday? Who was like the 2s? Who was one of the 3s?
Yeah, they all rotated with the 2s and the 3s. I thought KJ had a really good day. Created explosive plays, had a great 2-minute drive. He had the 2-minute drive with the 2s at the end and had a big play to Dalen McCutcheon to get us down there. Had a nice scramble in the red area. I think Matt Caldwell had 2 drives. One was a 16-play drive. One was a 13-play drive, which was pretty effective for him. The guy's, he's been practicing with us now. That was 9 practices he's been in our offense, and so I was really impressed with that. And Trey, for me, where we were talking to Trey is, he has some highlight throws and plays. We got to have a level of consistency in him because when he plays at a high level, it's really good. But we got to maintain the consistency for him at that spot.
Well, hey, you know what? Can I say this real quick, sidebar for a second? You know what I appreciate about Sark? I appreciate that kind of transparency. I really do. Like there's a politically correct answer to that question, which does not involve transparency. There's an easy way to pull that off, right? So I just listening to it, I just appreciate him keeping it real. I appreciate him saying KJ looked really good. That's the first guy he mentioned out of all of them. And look, I've done some videos. I mentioned how KJ looked good over the weekend. So KJ looking good, and you start there, right? So it's about Matthew Caldwell, and then the transparency about the Trey Owens thing. And look, I've done videos before. If you watch it, I've talked about, hey, this camp's big for Trey Owens. Like he's gotta fight off, these guys. And if he wants to get into that number 2 spot, he's gonna have to make a surge. We clearly see that Sark is looking for that consistency, right? So one thing is Alex Dunlap made a depth chart. So I'm gonna kind of go back and forth between this depth chart that he made as we kind of break down the different positions. So we'll start with that kind of the quarterback position and like what we know, right? So what we know at this moment and what you should know. So the defense has had a lot of success against the offense, but listen, it's no one's worried about Arch. Okay, like there's that conversation. We can make this into a 20-second conversation. No one's worried about Arch. We know this defense is salty. Really, the conversation becomes, what about the guys behind him? Matthew Caldwell ends up being the guy somebody who has some playing experience that offers you that kind of playing experience. I saw something that said there was a little glitch here, so hopefully Spectrum is not tripping today. So I apologize for that. Let's not talk about me and my dysfunctional relationship with Spectrum. But Matthew Caldwell seems to be a guy that would probably be at that number 2 spot. And I really just feel like the battle, quite honest with you, is for number 3. And I really feel like it's more about Trey. Hey, can you fight off KJ Lacey, that young kid who's, doing a lot of things that they like? And then if you have a chance to go back to yesterday's video, we talk about freshman sensation, Jason Sukumel and I spent a lot of time breaking down KJ Lacey. So go back and check out that video if you can. So I think that's where you're going to see like the next couple of weeks. And really this week becomes a huge week. And I'll be honest with you, this week becomes a huge week because you get through these scrimmages. The first 2 is really about setting the depth chart. That's really what the first 2 is figuring out who's who. The third scrimmage, usually your depth chart's kind of set. It's almost at that point, it's a practice. It's a run through. It's like, all right, we've got the pieces in place. This is what the 2 deep looks like. All right, so this third scrimmage is, let's just let these guys go at it. So this really, the coaches will tell you there's more time. Like they'll tell you that, and it's true. But everything's trending in the direction where they know this is where it's going to be. So anyway, this week I think is like the most important week going for them. So that's where we're at there. Now we look at the wide receiver position. Now, and I'll pull up Alex's depth chart out here right now, and we'll talk about that. And I'll go wide receiver, running back. We'll hit in all these things. And now look, this is Alex's projections at this moment. So this is not a coach's projection. This is Alex. In fact, at some point, someone should just put Alex Dunlap depth chart. I think listen, Ryan Wingo, you can go ahead and put him in ink over at the X. There's no battle there. That's his position. So we're that one's done. And you look at the Z position, there's still that battle between Parker Livingstone and Emmett Mosley, the 5th. Even though for some reason Ketch likes to call him Emmanuel, and I'm not quite sure why. But I think Parker Livingstone's been having a really good camp. I think Emmett Mosley would really need to turn it on in the next few days to really be able to push him for that Z position. Now, he may be able to do that. But Emmett Mosley was a guy that was brought in to really compete against Parker Livingstone. I think Parker Livingstone has really stepped up to that challenge. And, you should be happy with that because he has looked really good. And he's looked good. And when we were out there, there's a couple of times that they allowed us out there. Parker looked really, really good. I think DeAndre Moore can write him in ink over there. And I think right now, just the battles really, I think the Emmett Mosley, Parker Livingstone battle, that's still a thing. So we got to keep an eye on that. And then it really just becomes who's going to fill out behind them. I don't even, even like I'm looking at that slot position, and I'd put Dalen McCutcheon a little bit higher on this one. if I was Alex, I'd put Dalen McCutcheon a little bit higher up there as far as that slot thing is concerned. On the outside, though, French has had some flashes. And, they said Aaron Butler had some good catches. Sark mentioned Aaron Butler having some good catches, some spectacular catches over the weekend. So I forget who asked me about Aaron Butler last week, but I did mention before that Aaron Butler is a guy that, all right, you're gonna have to step up a little bit. And here it is, and he's risen to the challenge. So if he keeps up that momentum, good for him as far as being able to accomplish that. So that's what it looks like. And it's so interesting because when you look at this receiver position, not a ton of experience. I mean, there's not a ton of experience in that room where you look at it and say, oh, man, all right, I know these guys check all these boxes, but there's talent. And, it's sometimes it's kind of like it's like credit, right? It's like, well, how do you get credit? Like when you start out, like, how do you get credit? Well, no one gives you credit because they say you don't have credit. And you're like, all right, but the only way for me to get credit is for you to give me a line of credit. And they're like, yeah, but you don't have credit. And they're like, yeah, but it's like that back and forth, right? It's like, well, how do you become an experienced wide receiver? Well, you got to let me play. Yeah, but I can't let you play because you have no experience. It's like, yeah, but if you let me have experience, then you let me play, I get experience. Like, that's what it is. The whole kind of thing is like getting credit with these guys. So they will get the experience out of that whole situation. So let's go to running backs. Let's talk about what we know about the running back position. And I'll put that back on. Wisner is emerged obviously into that dude. Baxter looks more entrenched into that number 2 position. And it seems like everyone's really happy about his progress, and he's been able to make some plays. And Sark mentioned about him making some plays in the scrimmage over the weekend. So you've been able to see the rise of Baxter as well, as far as him just being healthy. And then we look at, he's got Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark in there. And again, I'm not 100% sold on Gibson currently being the number 3 guy. There's probably argument to be made that it could be Christian Clark. Again, there's some time that needs to occur there, but an argument can be made for Christian Clark in that regard. And look, if you can get Baxter back to where he once was, and you can bring him along slowly, and by slowly, I mean like, he doesn't need 20 touches, but if he could be a kind of a complimentary guy to Wisner and get his feet underneath him, and then he's a guy that you can use second half of the season, get more touches, like bring him along. If you can get him back to where, we forget that the dude was a 5-star. Like, it wasn't not that long ago. It's just the injuries have been a problem. But if he's back and he's healthy, God knows what this whole thing could look like, right? So the running back room with Wisner and then some guys behind him, a lot of questions behind him now. A lot of questions behind Wisner. But if those guys can step up, that's going to look really good as well. Now, the tight end room is interesting because Andrews has been that guy that's there. And, he's played well. Jack Andrews has played well. He's a guy that obviously they're leaning on, and they brought him in, and Andrews has played well. I didn't hear a ton about Andrews in the scrimmage. Didn't hear a ton about him because his defense played extremely, extremely well. So he did have some catches, but and then Spencer Shannon, and then really I'm not quite sure what to make about the guys behind those two. I don't know. Jordan Washington is going to be able to make a push to get into that number 2 spot. I'm not quite sure where that's going to look like for him. And then you got some young guys behind them, and you've got Will Randall, of course. It's really right now looking like Andrews and Shannon as your top 2 guys. So Texas goes in at 12 personnel. That's looking like the guys that you're going to see. I still have high hopes for Jordan Washington. Like, I'm not going to give up on Jordan Washington. He's been banged up, and maybe there'll be a time where he'll be able to get in there. But right now, it looks like injuries. It looks like Spencer Shannon. It looks like those are your two people, the main people from that tight end position. And then really when you start looking at the offensive line, I'll just keep that up there. If you start looking at that offensive line, not a ton of changes. Not a ton of changes right now as far as the offensive line, as far as the starting offensive line is concerned. Even though you lose Kojo, he was technically competing against Brandon Baker, but more than likely, Brandon Baker is probably going to win that position. So, first of all, Kojo, go ahead and get healthy, and good luck to you in your recovery. For me, I'm focused a lot on Jaden Chapman. Last year, Texas would have Trevor Gooseby, whether it's injuries or various reasons, they would allow him to get those first team's reps in practice at left tackle. And so I just think that Jaden Chapman, the offensive line is a position where guys get banged up. You don't want it to happen. You want to knock on wood as relates to that. But you've got to have, for me, it's more about now who's the first person off the bench. That's what it's about for me. I need to know if anybody goes down, there's a shoelace untied, if somebody, I don't know, left their cell phone in the locker room. I'm not trying to speak any bad things on anybody. And yes, why would an offensive lineman need to leave a game, forget their cell phone? Yes, I realize I probably could have come up with something a little bit better, but you get my point on me trying to be a little superstitious here, not say the other stuff. So I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of random reasons why a guy would go to the locker room. He has to go to the bathroom. How about that? A lot of tacos before the game. He has to go to the bathroom. Who's going to be the person that comes in? We know Nick Brooks got banged up in the last scrimmage. He was back in practice on Monday. And then really, to me, it's just about what can these other guys do behind these guys here. And what does Neto look like? Hulk Hudson, DJ Campbell. You feel good about those guys. And I know catch isn't as high on Neto, but I feel pretty good if Kyle Flood says I'm going to put Neto out there, that he's probably okay. Then it really, for me, again, everything is about who is behind them. And that's really it. I will tell you this. I mentioned this in one of the other shows, and something that I just really think that y'all should be appreciative of is that, thank God, we are talking about a team that has so much talent that we're not stressing over the little things. Because we've been at a point where we stressed over, it's like, man, if this person doesn't develop, like, Texas is screwed, right? This is going to be a long season, and one or two people can't do something. And now we're just like, oh, man, there's so many good people out here. I wonder who it's going to be. Like, these are first world problems. What's up, Mike Hargis? These are good problems for us to have right now. So I think when you say certain things like this, I mean, it is, man, this is a great day. My palms is itching. My moms and grandma would say your palm itching. That means money coming. So I don't know. My palms is itching. I don't know what's about to happen. Maybe someone about to drop a super chat. I don't know what's going to happen. But my palms is itching. That's really good. It is a great day to be a Longhorn because you do have so many good things. So many good things are going for the program and so many good options, right? And what is Green Lantern saying? Green Lantern has something for me. That was whatever this is. This is long, Green Lantern. Green Lantern, I need you to put this in Chat GPT and shorten this thing, bro. This whole thing is taking up half my screen. That's my dude right there. Green Lantern, I need you to do like 2 sentences. Oddvar, most elite defenses, historically speaking, have at least one player who is mean, nasty, and feared. I mean, feared by opponents and his teammates. Does this year's defense have such a person? I'll be honest with you. There's an obvious choice when you go to Anthony Hill, But my sneaky choice for this one is Michael Taft. And you may be like, Michael Taft, bro, how many penalties does this dude get in a game? I'm always and it's almost like Michael Taft gets like one targeting penalty a game. And I don't feel like he does it wrong, but Michael Taft, don't sleep on dude. And people may not fear him, but they should. I think Anthony Hill is your obvious choice, though. I think Anthony Hill is the obvious choice of a person that you probably don't want to see him coming. I think if you're a running back, you don't want to see him coming. If you're a quarterback, you definitely don't want to see him coming. I think Anthony Hill Jr. is that guy that you say to yourself, if I'm on offense and I look up and he's coming at me, it's probably gonna be a bad day. Like it's gonna be a bad day. So, but I like it. I like it. But don't sleep on Taft though. Don't sleep on Taft because man, hey, truer words have never been spoken. When my man says he's trying to send him to the upper room, he's trying to send him to the upper room when you get the funeral home fans. You know what I'm talking about? The funeral home fans. It's a black church thing. He literally is trying to going up yonder. If anybody asks you where I'm going, Michael Taft sent them there. Somebody who went to church is going to get that one. And I do believe Colin Simmons will have that opportunity, but I'm going to go with that. All right, so here was the interesting thing. So there's a couple of things I wanted to kind of go through with y'all kind of outside of that. I saw a really interesting article. And I want to put this up here on the screen here. That was fascinating. I don't know if y'all saw this. And let me expand this one for me. Someone to be with my Lord. That's old school right there. Going up yonder. Longhorns are a week 1 underdog to Ohio State despite the #1 ranking. I don't know if you saw this. I was fascinated by this. Texas, fresh off the #1 ranking in the preseason AP Top 25 poll, finds itself as a 2.5 underdog to Ohio State for their week 1 showdown in Columbus. Yes, in spite of Texas being ranked #1 in the AP poll, they actually are an underdog in that game, which makes me question everything about rankings. And again, rankings and Vegas, 2 totally different things. But you would think it should be somewhat synonymous. You would think the #1 team in the country wouldn't be the underdog in week 1, but yet here we are. This is where we are. The previous tightest week 1 spread for a #1 team was when Florida State lost outright as a 4-point favorite at number 8 Miami in 1998. Auburn also lost as a 5-point favorite. It basically, they're making it seem like, and by the way, I skipped over this, barring a significant line moment, this would make the Longhorns the first top-ranked team to be an underdog in week 1, according to ESPN research data dating back to 1978. What they're literally saying, it's almost like Texas is #1, but it won't be for long, which is crazy, right? It's the craziest thing to imagine. But I saw that article and I thought to myself, well, damn, I never knew. You would never think that a #1 team would need any kind of motivation. But if you're Texas, I guess that's all the motivation that you might need. And the other thing is, before we get out of here, obviously we saw about Cruel committing to Oklahoma yesterday. And what I would say if I was you guys, And I would say to that, well, first of all, as relates to the young man and by him going to J. Crew going to Oklahoma, yeah, hey, good luck to you. I would say congratulations. I watched it. He seemed like a really nice guy, seemed bright and everything, and seemed like a really good kid in Oklahoma. They got Fasusi last year. They get Cruel this year. All I would say to that is cool. I don't know who your coach is going to be by the time you get out of school. I don't know who your coach is going to be a year or two from now, but have at it. Go for it. Texas is just fine. If Texas loses those battles, Texas has kind of shown that they still go, they're still humming. And all I would say to you guys as relates to the conversation is that Texas is competing for championships. So that's kind of is what it is. And that's all you should worry about is Texas is competing for championships. They're talking about big things and people want to be along for that ride. It's great. If not, hey, everyone's path is different. But Texas is going to be all right. If I was you as a Longhorn fan, hey, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this season. Let Oklahoma start losing the games that we think they're probably going to lose, and we'll see how strong that commitment is. Let's go from there. But for right now, young man, enjoy yourself. Oklahoma fans, I'm sure they're enjoying an off-season win. The only thing that's going to matter is what they do during the season, and we'll leave it at that. Tomorrow, we'll get into defense. We'll break some of those things down, tell you everything that you need to know as far as that is concerned. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Let me scroll through here, make sure I did not steal anybody's money. No robberies. Okay, no super chats came in, so nobody got jacked today. And yeah, man, we're super excited to see the net, by the way. I'm just going to put this up here. Hold on, because this person said Nanette Doyle. Did I say that right? Nanette Doyle. And you got to help me with the pronunciation of the middle name, Perlusi. I'm saying it wrong. I'm just going to go ND for right now. Super excited to see Manning play this in the year of the Longhorn. It's been a minute. Can't wait to see him play. We're going to get a lot of hate, but they hate us because they ain't us. And by the way, I'll take it one step further. Cat Williams once said, people, only hate on folks that got something. So people don't hate on folks who ain't got something. So if they're hating on you, it means that you have something that they like or envy, and you should be really, really happy with that. All right, y'all, let me get out of here. Got more things to do today. Stay tuned to this Orange Bloods channel. Like it, subscribe it. Gotta go walk a dog. I'll tell y'all more about that later. Oh, and before I go, oh, real quick, I've almost hit the button. Two things. For everyone who's got kids who are going back to school today, hope that all your kids, my kids went to school today, first day of school. So first of all, thank you to all the teachers or all the hard work that y'all do. We appreciate you. Take our kids. We'll see them in 9 months. So y'all do what you do. But shout out to the teachers and everything that you do. For everyone who's got kids who are going back to school, whether you're spiritual or not spiritual, I just pray that your kids will be safe and protected from the start of the school year to the end of the school year. And I pray that the way you drop them off is the way you pick them up every single day. So praying against school violence, bullies, all that, and believing that your kids are going to have a fantastic, safe school year. For you guys who got kids going to college soon, my same prayers will apply to them, hoping that everyone is happy and safe and enjoys themselves, okay? Remember, you go out, do something special for yourself because you absolutely deserve it. Don't take today for granted. So enjoy yourself. Have a fantastic day. Go ahead and put things in the comments. I'll be in there looking at that as well. Now I think